Hello everyone and welcome to a game that can only be described as a tactical wonderland. It is Nihal Sarin versus Arjun Erigaisi and we're gonna dive straight into it. But before we do, tomorrow I'm gonna live stream a tournament on Leeches. It's a 2-hour arena, 3+0. Join, first link in the description below. It is sponsored by Lotus Chess. They will also be giving out some prizes, and also I will invite them over. We're gonna have a nice chat. You guys will be able to ask them questions, anything you want to know, anything you'd like to ask them. They're gonna be answering live while you guys are brawling it out, or even if you're not playing, you can just join at join us in the conversation. It's gonna be pretty awesome. We're gonna have a good time and be there. 6 p.m. 6 p.m. we're gonna start probably the live stream. The tournament will start at 6 p.m. Central European time. So what better way to spend a Monday? That being said, let's check out this game. And also, a link to the tournament, first link in the description below. So, knight to f3 by Nihal. We have knight to f6 by Arjun Erigaisi. We have pawn to b3. I think this is the fourth most popular continuation in this particular set of moves. It's the Reti transposing into the Nihal Sarin. We have pawn to c5, bishop to b2, and knight to c6. We have pawn to e3, g6, and knight to c3, pawn to d6, and already new territory. There is a game where bishop to c4 was played. Here we have bishop to b5, and it is now as of move 6 that we have a completely new game. Bishop to g7, and now the immediate knight e4, trying to exploit the fact that the bishop on g7 is undefended. So just pawn to e5. This weakens the d6 pawn a little bit, but there's no real way to take advantage of that. Knight to g3 and castles by both sides. We have pawn to a6, chasing away the bishop, bishop e2, and pawn to e4. Knight to e1 and pawn to h5. Arjun saying, I'm the stronger player, I'm going to push for a win with black. Easy game. We have pawn to c4, pawn to h4, knight to h1, and even pawn to h3. We have pawn to f3, and Arjun could eliminate both of these pawns and open up the path to the white king, but he first improves his position. Queen to e7. We have knight to g3, and now he does it. Captures. We have, sorry, not king captures, knight captures on g2, e captures on f3, and bishop captures on f3. We have knight to e5, putting pressure on the bishop, knight to f4. And okay, it's a pretty crazy position, but white is seemingly okay. We have knight g to knight f to g4, sorry, that's knight f to g4, and bishop to d5. We have king to h7, and now queen to e2. Knight back to f6, and queen to g2, putting pressure on that v7 pawn. For the moment, it's defended by the queen and by the bishop, but still rook b8. If you want to move that pawn, you have to move the rook away from the a8 square. Knight to e4, and now bishop to f5. And this is where the fun starts. Knight captures on f6, bishop captures, and Nihal plays knight to h5, trying to get Arjun to capture with the g-pawn, and then he can capture the bishop on f5. It seems like maybe it's a little too scary, but if you capture and rook captures on f5, seems like rook g8, okay, what is this? It's nothing, as rook captures on h5 is checkmate. So after knight to h5, we have knight to f3 with check, rook captures on f3, and now bishop captures on b2. We have rook a to f1, and queen to h4. And believe it or not, Nihal is already winning here, but it's not easy to find this variation. So this is the first of maybe 3 to 4 pause the video moments. Have at it while I give you a couple of seconds. So the tricky move is not rook captures on f5, which I imagine is the first move you checked. The tricky move is the second one, and after g captures, now you play knight to g3. And it seems like, okay, isn't it still a little bit dangerous that rook g8? I mean, looks pretty scary. Well, no, because after rook to g8, there's pawn to d4. And now you're not just putting pressure on the bishop, you also leave black without a move. Let's say bishop to c3, you're going to play rook captures on f5, and now after c captures on d4, you're going to play rook f4. You attack the queen. And after the queen moves, now you play queen to e4, check, followed by queen to h6. Or even if king to g7, trying to trick white into going knight to f5 check, which is a royal fork. But if knight f5 check, king goes to f8, opens up a discovery on the white king, and then the black queen escapes. So you have to play king to h1 first, and now there is no defense against rook captures on f7 and knight to f5 check. So pretty wild variation. But Nihal played knight back to g3, and this allows Arjun back in the game. He plays bishop to h3, and rook captures on f7, followed by bishop back to g7. And again, Nihal's position is very nice, but only if he finds a particular move. And this one is very, very hard to find. I was so happy that I tuned into the game as this position was on the board. So I was like, wow. So, have at it. Feel free to pause the video. You're going to be very happy if you manage to solve this one. The move, believe it or not, is knight to f5. Again, and the reason for that is I thought what's the problem? Rook just captures on f7, and there's nothing. If you capture the queen on h4, you just play rook captures on f1, and that's pretty much it. Queen has to capture, bishop captures, everything gets traded off. If anything, black is better. There's not much to be done here. The trick, however, or even if rook captures on f7, if you go, or rather the trick is queen captures on g6, and this is the move that's easy to miss. And now there's really not all that much you can do here. If the king moves, you just capture on f7, and if the king captures the queen, now you capture the black queen with check, and after king to h5, you play rook captures on f7, and it doesn't matter if you move the bishop, then white moves the knight. If you capture the bishop, then white captures the bishop on g7, and you're up to 2 pawns. The black king is stuck here on the h file, so not much to be done here. This is completely winning for white. The b7 pawn is weak. You have to probably move it. All of the other queenside pawns become weak, so that's it. This game is over. So after knight to f5, that was definitely a possibility, but here we have bishop captures on g2, Arjun playing the best possible continuation, rook captures on g7 check, king to h8, and now knight captures on h4. We have bishop captures on f1, and rook captures on g6. We have bishop back to h3, and knight to f3, followed by king to h7. Bishop to f5 would have been a little bit better, but still, it's a pretty crazy position. King h7, rook captures on d6. We have king to g7 and king to f2. We have rook to f6, offering a rook trade, which Nihal goes for. We have captures, and king g3. So Nihal is down an exchange, but he's up 3 pawns. So white is the one pushing for the win here. We have bishop back to e6, and now just king to f4. You don't care if the bishops get traded off. Your pawns are doubled because that's a passed pawn now. e4, e5 check is coming, then e6, and it's game over. So after king f4, rook to g8, and the bishop captures on e6. We have king captures and pawn to h4. It's knight versus rook, and Nihal is up 3 pawns. We have rook to f8 check, king to e4, and pawn to b6. We have pawn to d4, captures, and pawn to a5. We have rook to pawn to a5. We have pawn to a3, rook to c8, and now knight to e5. And you have to be very, very careful here. Nihal is already not Nihal. Nihal has almost 6 minutes on the clock. Arjun has a minute and a half. And knights are tricky bastards. You put the king or a rook on a wrong square, the game goes away. So rook to g8, we have pawn to b4, trying to create a pass pawn on the queen side as well. Captures, rook to g2, and pawn to d5 with check. We have king to d6, king to d4, preparing pawn to c5, and rook to d2 check. We have knight to d3, rook to h2, going after the h-pawn, pawn to c5. With check, we have captures with check, king to e7, and pawn to d6, king to e6, and knight to f4 with check. We have king to d7, knight to g6, now defending the pawn, and rook to h1. So how is white to make progress here? Well, easy if you have more time on the clock, but with a minute on the clock, it's not easy. Knight to e5 check, king to e6, we have knight to f3, defending the h4 pawn, rook to c1, and now pawn to h5. We have rook back to h1, and now again the question is how to win this. I'm sure you guys already see it, and like I said, you can pause the video of your own free will. You don't have to wait for me to ask you guys. knight to g5 check. We have king d7, knight back to e4. It's a repetition to gain some time. And now you cannot capture. If you capture, then knight f6 check wins the rook, and that's it. So here we have rook to h4, pinning the knight, king back to e3, and king to e6. We have knight to g5 check, king d7, and knight to e4. Again, with the same idea, you capture knight f6 wins the rook. So king to e6, knight to g5 with check, king d7, and now knight to h7. Again, with the same idea. You capture knight f6 is game over. So rook to c4, putting pressure on the c5 pawn. And here Nihal played knight to f8 check, which is not no longer winning. You have to play knight to f6 check, and then after the king moves, now you play knight to e4, and you have everything defended, and your h pawn is marching forward. However, he played knight to f8 check, and this gives Arjun just enough time to consolidate. He played king to e8, and now we have king to d3, where the position is a draw, but there's only one move that draws the game. I'm sure you guys know what to play here, but Arjun had the misfortune of having 30 seconds on the clock, and he made the wrong decision. Instead of rook to c1, he played rook captures on c5, and this is now where the fun starts. It's do you see it again? You know, I know it's a lot of pause the video moments, but this game is, like I said, a tactical paradise. Of course, the winning idea is pawn to d7 check. This is what Arjun missed, and I imagine he was very sad when he saw this. If you go king to d8, then knight e6 check just picks up the rook, so you cannot play that. He played king e7, but now d8 queen. And the same thing, king captures knight to e6 check, and he was in this position on move 70 that Arjun Erigaisi resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. So tough luck for him. He had a great start to the tournament. Out of the 3 games, he had 2 wins and 1 draw. Now losing to Nihal Sarin, but Nihal playing chess like this, a total tactical frenzy. He definitely deserves the win, and especially against a strong player like Arjun. Here, you could play it on a little bit like captures. Let's say king f6, knight e4 check, king g7, knight g3. The pawn is defended. Here, the king cannot get close to the pawn, so that's the problem. So you have to go the other way around. King comes to help out. You just push away the black king. You bring in the knight, and you slowly but surely checkmate the black king. It's even a very well-known checkmate with queen to d6. So yeah, beautifully done by Nihal Sarin. It's been a while since we've covered one of his games, so very happy that he's having a good time and that he's climbing back to 2700. And like I said, first link in the description below. Join the tournament tomorrow, 2-hour arena on Lead Chess. So let's brawl it out and see who is the greatest. So yeah, hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Fisher Exteriors, Tafat Vanagvaru, Alexander Schaefer, Miloš Knežević, and Gerhard Henkelman for a contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.